But his work consumed him, and Stephanie Bernstein learned to forgive the heap of yesterday's clothes on the side of the bed, or the day she had to catch a taxi to her job as a clinical social worker because the Chrysler sedan that she shared with her husband was still sitting in the OSI parking lot. Bernstein forgot he had it and rode the bus home. "I'm sure one day I'll find this amusing, Mickey," she said, eyeing her contrite husband, whose brown hair was slicked back and parted down the side. "But right now, I am pissed off." Bernstein would have been a history professor if law school hadn't seemed more practical, and at OSI he spent hours with the historians, who were almost always mired in some dark mystery, fitting together clues, a roster from West Berlin, an identity card from Warsaw, a confession sent from Moscow, with a kind of deliberate order often missing from the frenetic pace of prosecutorial law. OSI had long relied on tips from outside sources, but now the historians were copying massive batches of archival records and cross-checking them against records of immigrants who had come to the United States after the war. Bernstein and Peter Black had worked on investigations of former guards from the Mauthausen concentration camp, built on the bank of the Danube River near a stone quarry outside Linz, Austria. The only massive concentration camp on Austrian territory, it had been a horrid place where starving prisoners were forced to heave granite blocks up uneven steps to the top of the quarry. Other lawyers thrived inside the courtroom, but bluster made Bernstein cringe. Methodical and excessively patient, he had convinced every OSI defendant on his roster to voluntarily relinquish U.S. citizenship, avoiding the hassle and expense of trials. At the chilly start of December 1988, Bernstein agreed to fly to Vienna on behalf of OSI. He would be home in time to celebrate Hanukkah with his 7-year-old daughter and 4-year-old son. In Austria, Bernstein would see about a matter that had been thwarting the mission of the Office of Special Investigations for years. In Bonn in 1954, the Foreign Office of West Germany had signed a critical commitment, neatly typed and bearing the coat of arms for the Federal Republic of Germany, a black eagle, wings extended wide against a golden field. The Foreign Office has the honor to inform the Office of the United States High Commissioner for Germany. The country had agreed to take back Nazi perpetrators discovered in the United States after the war. American diplomats also secured a nearly identical guarantee from neighboring Austria, which promised that Nazi criminals would be readmitted upon demand of the American authorities. U.S. officials had tucked copies of the guarantees inside the immigration files of thousands of European refugees who entered the country in the mid-1950s, and no one thought much about it, a rather technical agreement between friendly nations, until the Office of Special Investigations discovered dozens of Nazi collaborators guarding ugly secrets in America's cities and suburbs. In the early 1980s, juggling a growing roster of OSI defendants, Eli Rosenbaum and Neil Scher had pressed the matter at the German embassy in Washington. Without countries willing to readmit Nazi perpetrators, OSI could not enforce deportation orders. "We can't find a copy of that guarantee in our files," the German consul general told Scher and Rosenbaum, frowning at the two men. Rosenbaum, fresh out of law school, watched his boss cringe. "It's in U.S. government immigration files," Scher had replied sternly. "Thousands of them." More than 200,000 refugees were admitted into the United States under the Refugee Relief Act of 1953, a sweeping immigration law passed by Congress to assist displaced Eastern Europeans in the years after the war. Scher produced a copy of the agreement, but the German consul general was indignant. "My government questions its authenticity." The text, she pointed out, didn't contain the umlaut, a character that appears over several vowels in the German alphabet. Rosenbaum frowned. "You can't seriously suggest that this isn't authentic." She shrugged, and Rosenbaum knew that the conversation was over. He thought of the concentration camp.